Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video here on Marvel Strike Force. Have you guys wondered how difficult it is going to be to challenge Knull when Battleworld comes out? Well, in today's video, I want to go over his entire enemy kit. This is going to be something that could be subject to change because we know that Battleworld is not going to be out until November. That's what we've been told, is that it's going to be around November time. But this is going to be the kit that had been play tested from the Envoys, the Krakens, and whoever else has access to the playtest server for Battleworld. And I want to share with you kind of what you're going to be up against. And the reason why I'm sharing this as well is because it's going to be important for the upcoming journey with the Astral team and kind of getting to know Knull's kit a little bit to better understand why Astral is probably going to be countering Knull in the final battle. So yeah, we had this scene right on the Battle World splash screen, so we're going to be able to break down a little bit of what these new abilities are going to do. So some exciting stuff ahead. So if you're ready to go, everybody, let's boil this down. And for the purposes of this video, I am going to be in full screen mode, which means I am not going to be on the screen. So you're just going to be hearing my voice for most of this. So the Knull kit, again, this is the enemy version of the kit. The point of this video and the PowerPoint is to share with you this version of the boss, which we're going to be fighting Knull for Battleworld on the last day. That's going to be day 6 of Battleworld if you get through all the other zones to make it to the end. This is possibly subject to change as Battleworld itself is delayed a bit and there may be some adjustments to the fight and thus the final Knull kit. However, I think it's interesting to get a glance at some things to come with the character and maybe what we might see in the player version of Knull as well. That's going to be pretty important too. So let's oh shit, where's my moving on to slide number 1. So we have the passive. Yes, it's quite beefy. So the stuff that I have highlighted in red honestly is stuff that I think that might be boss only, but I don't know for sure. So characters killed by Knull cannot be revived. Okay, so that's pretty generic-ish. You know, there are other characters that have this. Just in general, when they're killed, they cannot be revived. On turn, for every 10 rage on this character, ability generate 1 ability energy for self up to a maximum of 5. So I've talked about rage in my live stream this past Saturday. I talked about rage. I think I've talked about rage elsewhere. That it's going to be a specific mechanic. It's going to be a buff to Battle World bosses, and it's like an in rage. If you've ever played MMOs, things like that, you know, it's in other mobile games with boss battles. It's essentially something that's going to make the boss stronger over time, so that you know you're not infinitely fighting it. So at some point, he's going to have enough of this rage that you're just going to die because he's going to be too powerful, essentially. On symbiote ally turn, gain +1 rage. This is going to be really important when we get to the rest of the kit. On enemy turn, fill this character speed bar by 10%. So every time you act, because you know you're the enemy, right? He's going to get speed bar for that. Gain plus 10% damage per rage and 5% speed per rage, right? So this is pretty big because, you know, essentially the more rage, the more damage he does, the faster he is, the more likely you're going to die, right? Like this battle's not going to last forever unless somehow you can brick wall against his increased stats. Symbiote allies gain plus 20% speed. So that's something that I think will be generic enough to, you know, as a player part of the kit. I think that that's very likely. So that's kind of interesting too. Might have some broader application later on. We know that Knull is going to be a playable character, by the way. But what we don't know is that, like, or what we do know, and what I know is that basically that there's not going to be a symbiote rework, unfortunately. So when Knull gets reworked, when Knull comes out, as far as I'm aware, there won't be a symbiote rework to any characters. Subject to change, I suppose, but that's as far as I'm aware. There may be, because he's going to take probably months to unlock, that maybe there might be a symbiote team later down the road. Maybe there'll be like a new symbiote raid team for, I don't know, the replacement to Hive Mind, something like that. For every 10 rage on this character, symbiote allies gain 10% damage up to a max of 250. So again, to do with rage, and you'll see why when we get to his actual abilities. So I don't think this is part of the player kit personally. This character can only lose up to 1% of their max health each turn. This is very important because, you know, when you're using characters that do percent-based damage, you know, the APOC punch, I don't know, Minerva, Dark Phoenix, whoever, right? Omega Red's basic, it's only ever going to do 1% of their max health. Now, this very well could be a lot, right? Because if you saw that photo, where's the photo? That he had 538 million hit points in this version of whatever they're showing off, right? So 1% of that is still like what 5.4 million damage, basically. So that's still a lot. But whether or not that 1% is still worth keeping those characters around for you to, you're only going to have so many teams that you're going to be able to fight Knull with. I don't know if it's 3 or 5 attacks, probably subject to change as well. But you're only going to be able to do so many of those. And so whether or not it's worth using some of these kind of weaker characters who probably aren't going to live much more than like a few attacks, might be up in the air. And also, this character's max barrier is 1% of this character's max health. So, for example, he's not going to have any more than 5.4 million barrier, I suppose, because otherwise it would just be bonkers, right? Because normally barrier, I believe, lets you have 30% of your max health. So, yeah, it would be too crazy otherwise. And then darkness. This is going to be really important to the rest of the kit. Darkness is a new debuff, which I believe is unique to Knull. I don't think it's unique to Battleworld, but I think it is unique to Knull. On this character's turn, attack a random ally. So it's a little bit of like a mind control confusion debuff. This attack gains 25% extra damage per darkness on this character, up to a maximum of 250%. So darkness can stack up to 10, it would seem, and it does more damage the more they have. Using this character's basic ability, while this character has full energy, clears 5 stacks of darkness. So I'm assuming this means, your character, right, that has darkness. This is just explaining darkness. So if you use a basic while you have it instead of using other ones, then it can clear some of these darknesses down. Whether or not that works on Striker, I'm not sure. Let's get to his basic. So attack primary and adjacent targets for 270% damage, plus apply ability block, blind, slow, and trauma, and then apply 2 of the following: bleed, defense down, disrupt, heal block, or offense down. So that's a lot of debuffs that are going on, and it's adjacent targets as well. So multi-hit attack here. On primary and adjacent targets with darkness, apply +1 darkness. So if they already have it, then it's going to do more. If primary target doesn't have darkness, then apply it to the primary target. So not to the adjacents as well. But it's basically going to start stacking up more darkness. Gain defense up, deflect, or offense up. So there's or. So he's not getting all 3 of them. He's getting 1 of them. And this attack cannot be dodged. So that's his basic attack there with his little icon. That's been in the asset folders for some time now. His special attack primary and adjacent targets for 350% damage. This damage reduces the max health of the target by 20% of the damage dealt. So this is the first character, post Mephisto, I suppose, that has a way of reducing your max health. That's that little Mephisto bar thing where, like, it's permanent for that battle. So that's pretty interesting, but it's not 20% of their max health. It's of the damage that he deals. So the more damage he deals, the more, max health that you're going to lose. So that's interesting, and we'll see how that applies both in the boss version, and that's probably something that I would see in the player version as well. Clear all positive effects on primary and adjacent targets, and then spread all negative effects from the primary target to adjacent targets. So that's kind of like a Venom ultimate thing. And so far, I mean, a lot of this is stuff that I would see on the player kit. Nothing's too that wild. On primary and adjacent targets with darkness, apply +1 darkness. This seems to be a theme here on his kit. If the primary target doesn't have darkness, then apply darkness to the primary target. Again, that's the same line from the basic, I'm pretty sure. Bury yourself for 30% of this character's max health, and then summon Agent Venom, Gwenom, Scream, Spider-Man symbiote, or Venom. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked. So, yes, he is going to be summoning symbiotes. Now, this should have been kind of obvious, because if you go back and you read this part of the text down here, it'll say, where was it? You can also expect an army of symbiotes to come to Knull's aid, making for one of the toughest fights Strike has seen to date. Now, I actually think that this would probably be his player kit as well. I don't think that's super overpowered. This one only summons 1, and he is going to be a strong character, right? We know this. And for people who have played Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, I have not a lot, but I have been told that basically territory battle character unlocks are quite strong. And so I expect Knull to be like a pseudo-legendary character. And so I don't think this is outside the realm of possibility that basically this entire kit This entire set of text is essentially going to be on the player version. His ultimate attack all enemies for 400% damage, plus apply 2 darkness. This damage reduces the max health of the target by 30% of the damage dealt. So an AoE attack here, and summon Agent Venom, Gwenom, Scream, Symbiote Spider-Man, or Venom, again, and 2 of the following: Anti-Venom, Carnage, Gwenom, again, for some reason, maybe that subject has changed, but she's listed on both, Red Goblin, or Void Knight. So you're having basically almost the entire Hive Mind team here on this part, except Anti-Venom is on there, and he's not on the other sets of text. So essentially, there's going to be 3 summons from his ultimate, and I think it's 1 on his special. And then it says gain +5 rage. So that's just going to be basic. So if you look at the screenshot where this one over here, he doesn't start prepared with his ultimate. You can see that there's like a 4 ability energies missing. So yes, he has to lead up to his ultimate in order to get there, which is why, it's pretty crazy, because once he does get there, at least in the boss version, he's going to be getting lots of rage. He's also going to be summoning a whole slew of symbiotes as well. So that's going to be pretty important there. So quite interesting. And I think it really kind of leads back to the passive, right? And I think that's where things are kind of important to talk about. Oh, no, I went too far. Sorry. Because a lot of this stuff also in this passive relates to other symbiote allies, right? So again, when the symbiote allies take a turn, Knull gains +1 rage. So with all those symbiotes out from the summons, both from the special, but specifically from the ultimate, you're going to have to make sure that you kill the symbiotes too. You can't just leave them up, because every time they take a turn, Knull is going to be getting rage. And the darkness mechanic is, I think, going to be very key into what Astral is probably going to help defend against. In this case, it seems like probably a mind control-esque thing. That's basically the detriment here, is that you're going to be attacking yourself for more damage. And we've also seen that with characters like Odin. If you take a look at Odin in his basic attack, he does reduce damage that you do to players. And so I think that Odin might be very important as well for Battleworld to be fighting Knull. So for those of you who are chasing Dark Dimension 8 and are going after Odin or have Odin, then you'll probably be in a pretty good position, because it's going to be helping to counter the effects of darkness as well. But having all of those symbiotes out is not going to be fun, because having more raged is going to increase the damage and the power of the symbiotes. And also, by keeping them alive, like I said, is going to mean that more rage is going to be given to Knull, and eventually you're going to die and fall over, because he's going to have too many. So, it can go all the way up to 25, it would seem, for every 10 rage on this character symbiote. So this could go up to 250, it seems. But I mean, at some point, you're just going to fall over and die because of all the buffs. So some pretty crazy stuff here. I would be curious to know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. But otherwise, guys, that's going to be it for this video. And until next time, of course, stay safe and healthy. And I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.